The back of this. Now I hope this lady doesn't resent it, but I'll see what I can do. I don't know what's coming out. I know it's going to be a face. I'll let my unconscious work. I like that eye there. I like that expression of the eye very much. I don't know what's coming out. Are you grabbing this?
Yeah. Go ahead and continue to talk, Art.
Huh?
Go ahead and talk about whatever is something.
So, this is the difference between art and life. If this painting was an exact reproduction of the features of this person, and it didn't have any substance, it didn't have anything behind the appearance, that would be life. Plain life. Now this is art because there's a certain ambiguity of the expression of this face. So there you have the difference between life and art. Rembrandt apparently is life, but behind his portraits it is art, because there's something in the depth behind the plain appearance Now, should I destroy this face and cover it up with colors? What is your opinion, Al?
Well, it's up to you. It's your painting, you know.
Well, I hate to destroy it because I think it came out pretty nice, don't you?
Uh-huh.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Came out pretty nice. A lot of expression there. When I was young, I wanted to be a cartoonist. So when I was 12 years old, we moved to Chihuahua, the state of Chihuahua, Mexico. And I enrolled in a correspondence course of cartooning with the Landon School of Cartooning in Indianapolis. Later on, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a short story writer. But I figured I couldn't cut the mustard, so I devoted myself to painting. I've been a great reader. I've read them all. Shakespeare, most of Shakespeare, the modern writers, Graham Greene, Hemingway, William Faulkner, one of my favorites, Virginia Woolf, you name them. The thing I don't like about modern art criticism is that they find things in there that the artist never intended to put in there. Now, if these critics only knew how to paint, it'd be different, but they don't know how to paint. In other words, they're encroaching on an area they know nothing of. And they make too much do about nothing. Some art critics, like I admire.
Who would be one of your favorite?
Paul Valéry, the Frenchman, Hippolyte Taine, and literary criticism, Edmund Wilson, one of my favorites, and William Epsom, the British, who wrote a book called 7 Types of Ambiguity. As an example, he'd cite a sonnet by Shakespeare, and he would give you 7 different critiques on that particular poem. So you can see the laxity, not the laxity, but expansion that is possible in any critique. Painters I like: Bonnard, Vuillard, Braque, a little-known German painter by the name of Willy Baumeister, and of course the Impressionists, I forget his name now. Action?
Yeah.
I tried to balance things. This curve is balanced by this curve. These 2 curves complement each other, and so on. Also, I like to juxtapose cold colors with warm colors, which I think in nature you find them. You find them in nature, the warm and the cold more or less together. After I had painted this, I noticed the configuration of a boot and a sort of a trophied bull. Likewise over here, the horns. I improvise. I don't know what's coming out when I begin, but I start adding and adding.
Why did you paint this?
Huh?
Why did you paint this?
Because it was there. The support was there, and like they say, why do you climb the mountain? Because it's there. If this board hadn't been here, I wouldn't have painted it.
Okay, go ahead.
Cubism is supposed to be the rearrangement of nature or objects to the taste of the painter. There's 2 types of cubism, and I do not know one from the other. One is the synthetic cubism, and the other one is the analytical cubism. Now, as I said before, these art critics sometimes confuse a person because no one has explained to me in writing how to define analytical cubism and synthetic cubism. To me, it's all cubism. I have done something akin to cubism, black on white, based on photographs. That I like a few shapes in the photograph, and I start with those few shapes, and then I continue adding hieroglyphics, lines, and things that have nothing to do with the original photograph. But I like them, and many people have liked them, and I have sold some. Those are the black and white that you will photograph. Some of these new painters I see reproduced in the art magazines don't seem to have any what do you say, system. They're slapdash. For example, Cy Twombly's paintings, which sell for a great amount, they're scribblings, childish scribblings. I think a real scribbling by a real child would be more interesting than his paintings. But I think he's famous now, and people buy what is famous, even if they don't like it. Cy Twombly.
Do you think most people are ignorant about art?
Well, you know the old saying, I know what I like, but it's a matter of taste. Taste, to me, is the most important thing in appreciating art and in doing art. Taste enters all phases of life. In your food, in your clothing, in the way you act. Taste, to me, is the epitome of everything in life. From personal relationships to metaphysical speculations, if you can say there is taste in that.
Time out.
Paul Klee said, a dot is the beginning of a line, and one line is the beginning of many. We all know that. And despite the craving, the liking for large paintings now, some of these small paintings, I think, have a lot of merit to them. I mean, small in size, like Paul Klee's. But it seems like lately, the bigger the painting, the more valuable they consider the painting. Now, Julian Schnabel, I don't like. A bunch of pottery glued on a canvas and then sprayed over with paint. But he's been hyped into a big painting. My favorite painters are Milton Avery and the modern painters, Marine, the watercolorist, and of course Jackson Pollock. And I consider de Kooning a very instinctual painter. In other words, he starts without knowing what's coming out and he lets himself go. Talking about art critics, there are a few. There's one that writes for the New Yorker, who I think is very good. But even among art critics, there's a big difference. They're always criticizing each other instead of criticizing art. So maybe they consider the critic they criticize a work of art. He is a work of art. He moves around. He's human art. So they criticize him. So in the end, there is nothing absolute. Things are ambiguous. And what might be considered great this year might be considered, may I use a pun, ungrateful next year. So that covers up the canvas for today.
Yeah.
Well, are we rolling?
Yeah.
I'm making a little, what I call a La Prima sketch. Somewhat like the painters of the Renaissance. A La Prima means whatever you put down a brush stroke, you don't cover it up or you don't remove it. Now these La Prima that I make aren't color, but they're sketches, which have quite a bit of depth in them. Now, how they came about, I don't know. I'm surprised sometimes at the expression of these sketches. Not all of them come out to my satisfaction, and some of them surprise me completely. How I do it, I don't know. Like they say of genius, I don't say I'm a genius, but like they say of genius, he does it, but he doesn't know why or how. He just makes it. See?
Okay.
You have your questionnaire. Is it rolling now?
Yeah, it's rolling now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I want you. Would you discuss your portraits, and then discuss the eyes?
Yes. When I make my portraits, I start with a knife, mostly with a knife. I pick up my paint, and the first thing I put is the nose. The vertical nose, then the lips, then the eyes. I apply the paint on the support with a knife without any preconceived idea. Now, if it accidentally produces an eye that I like, I let it stand. The other eye, likewise. If it doesn't, I work at it. I want to create a sort of an eye behind the eye. I want to create an expression. Maybe it's a forlorn expression, but the main thing is that if I'm satisfied with it, I stop there. Then I make the contour of the cheeks, the forehead, and the neck, and the hair towards the last. The thing is, if I like it, that's it. I never know what's coming out. I don't know what expression it will assume.
I've noticed a lot of expression in the eyes themselves because in photographing them, when I do close-ups on them,
Yes,
they're very expressive, almost lifelike.
they are. Without, it's a sort of a paradox, you might say, because there is no real life representation of the eye or the pupil or anything. It's a sort of a veil over the eye, but through that veil you can see an expression, if I may say it that way. In other words, it's something hidden, but still it's visible. Now that may sound contradictory, but it's the overall expression, especially of the eyes.
I just thought of a statement, the eye is the window to the soul.
Yes, and there's also a statement in Spanish, love enters through the eye.
And vice versa, right?
Yes.
Hey, tell me a little about the churches that you painted.
Well, I'm not religious in the strict sense of the word, but the churches that I painted were made from photographs, and I just liked the scene, and they more or less isolated. Two of the churches were photographs of fjords in Norway, and they were photographed by I forget his name, a very famous photographer. And I worked much at him. And the other one is a church in Greece, if you call them churches, monasteries. I'm trying to remember the name of that photographer. Yeah. I can't remember now.
Okay.
The black and white drawings that I make are prompted by usually black and white photographs that appear on newspapers. What hooks me onto them is just very elementary shapes that I see in that photograph. In other words, that's a point of departure. I don't see any more than what I see in that photograph. I set that down, not, if I can apply the term verbatim, which can be applicable to this. After those elementary forms from the photograph are set down, not exact copies, from then on I keep evolving different shapes, different, sometimes ideograms, sometimes from the Chinese calligraphy or the Inca sculptures, and it's just a question of going on and on and on, adding details to this black and white design in sort of a trying to have it balanced at all times. And when it's finished, it's completely different from the photograph that inspired, so to speak, this work of art. But still, if you study it very closely, you can see the elementary source from the photograph that prompted me to make that sketch, or whatever you want to call it. It's just an impulse. The photograph is a starting point, it's the impulse, it's what gets me going. And after it's finished, it's completely different from the photograph. In other words, even when you see the photograph, the person that doesn't know finds it hard to find the skeletal design in my work. It's a question of addition and more addition, and quite a bit of thought of what I should do, because I don't make a pencil sketch. It's direct from the black pen on the white paper, and I have to make it perfect because I can't copy it, recopy it, or erase it. And everything is a la prima, so to speak, right on that piece of paper.